Hello and welcome to the city of Olean, New York. Olean was incorporated in 1854 and is the largest town in Cattaraugus County with a population of 13,937 in 2024. The town was first built along the Allegheny River as the railroads were not widespread at the time of incorporation. After only a short period of time, the town became a major railroad hub with the crossing of the Erie and the Pennsylvania Railroad. We're here today for a special train down the Buffalo line portion of the Western New York and Pennsylvania Railroad. After Norfolk Southern Corporation took over the Buffalo line from Conrail in 1999, the corridor continued to experience a decline in traffic until the company leased it to the WNYP Railroad on August 3, 2007. The traffic between Port Allegany, PA and Driftwood, PA has been off and on for the past 10 years. Although the loss of sand traffic to Emporium in 2023, the portion was deemed unnecessary and put out of service by the railroad. Before arriving onto the WNYP, this set of Federal Railroad Administration rail cars traveled south onto Buffalo and Pittsburgh. These cars were interchanged between the two short lines in East Salamanca, New York. The evening crew then pulled the set to Olean Yard, where they would tie the train down overnight. Alright, let's get this show on the road. It's August 26, 2025, and the WNYP OL1 crew is preparing to take these FRA coaches south on the Buffalo line. First, the EMD GP15 locomotives would have to couple to the coaches. Today's locomotives are both former Union Pacific EMD GP15-1s, with the 1502 being built in June of 1980 and the 1504 in February of 1982, both for the Missouri Pacific Railroad. The locomotives ended up with the WNYP after the railroad was purged of their aging Alco fleet. We're now set up along the Buffalo line at former control point North Eldred, which is located along Route 305 in Bullis Mills, Pennsylvania. The signals here were put out of service sometime around 2012 following the filming of Tony Scott's Unstoppable. The crew had a slow order here at North Eldred, but would shortly be back to their regulated FRA monitored speed. After completing their slow order through North Eldred, we moved south of the milepost 85, which is just shy of downtown Eldred. In June of 1972, major rainfall brought flooding to the Allegheny River. After the town received devastating floods during the storm, the state constructed a flood wall that surrounds the town on the side facing the Allegheny River. The railroad tracks run right through the wall, creating this pretty cool looking gate system. Today's train is inspecting the railroad between Olean and Port Allegany. The FRA uses these track geometry cars to inspect the nation's railroads. This ensures the safety of the railroad, employees, and even can help protect the public from a dangerous accident. These rail cars take data such as track gauge, rail brakes, and more. The railroad being monitored is then categorized into an FRA class, which is on a scale of 1 through 9. As we continue south, we're set up in Port Allegany, Pennsylvania. This is the furthest south the railroad has active track and the final southward customer on the Buffalo line. The town is home to the RDOT Group, which makes glass for various items. The railroad brings in silica sand to be used in the production of glass. The large tower even has a star on top, which lights up in the night sky. From this point south, our train is running on the out-of-service trackage.
Should I video this? Because I might not ever see it again.
As the Rail Buff Parade rolled into the parking lot of the Shop and Save, some employees from the local grocery store came out to experience this rare moment as they may not ever get to see it again. Moving south from Port Allegany, we're facing north at the milepost 101 in the small community of Wrights, Pennsylvania. Since the last train in early 2024, the weeds are just starting to take over the once busy main line. The out-of-service look is truly setting in here with the rusty rails and vegetation overgrowth. Just 2 miles south of the last location, we're set up in Liberty, Pennsylvania at the bottom of the 2.6% grade to Keating Summit. Here you can see the bridge pillars from the now defunct Potato Creek Railroad. The Potato Creek Railroad was owned by the Buffalo and Susquehanna and was established in 1907 to carry lumber and passengers between Keating Summit and Norwich. The railroad was abandoned in 1920. We're now set up for the train at Keating Summit, Pennsylvania, which as mentioned is at the top of a 2.6% grade. The number 2.6 means the railroad rises a whopping 2.6 feet per 100 feet of railroad, which is a pretty major task for a train. The hill is one of the major reasons the line was cut off from Norfolk Southern and even the later WNYP. Just a day prior to the train running, we ventured through the area getting some before shots of the track. Hello guys, we're here on Sunday, 1 day before the train really, so scoping out some different shots. We're at the top of the nearly 3% grade, 8 miles long, 3% grade. The grade crests right there where my finger is, around the curve. I'm using the phone right now. I didn't feel like getting the camera out. And if you look down this way, you can look back and see the gradient going down towards Liberty on the railroad. So here's the rail before the train come through. This is like I said, Sunday. The train's running on Tuesday through here. As mentioned earlier in the video, the Western New York and Pennsylvania had a major sand customer at the small yard in Emporium. In December 2023, we visited the railroad and were lucky enough to shoot multiple sand trains over the mountain with the massive AC6000 locomotives. The railroad is now just a far cry of what it was even just a year ago. The train is now in the middle of the 8-mile hill, and even with just the 2 passenger cars, these GP15s are still bearing down on the grade. After passing us here, the crew would then carefully make their descent to the bottom of the hill at Gardeau. We're now at the bottom of the grade at the Gardeau crossing. While scoping the line on Sunday, we caught the attention of some locals, which we told about the special movement in their front yard the following Tuesday. Upon arrival to the crossing, the 2 residents along with my dad gathered in the photo line to make a pretty neat and memorable scene. These crossings were specially ordered for the WNY&P and are made for high visibility on the rolling hills that the road traverses coming up to the crossing. This is to prevent car versus train crashes as much as possible. With the extremely rusted railheads, the crossing detection system was not functioning properly. The train had to slow down almost to a stop before they activated once again. At the bottom of the hill to the south is the town of Emporium, Pennsylvania. This was the home of the former frac sand yard that sat just to the right of your screen. The town was once a junction in connection to the Pennsylvania Railroad's line to Ridgeway, which later became the Allegheny Railroad. The line to Ridgeway is now abandoned with the rails removed, and at the side of the junction, the town has a small rail history park. The yard is home to a classic Pennsylvania Railroad banjo-style signal bridge. We're set up at the Route 120 crossing, which is just around the curve from the former site of Control Point Emporium. This signal bridge was set up around the curve to give crews an earlier view of their indication before rounding the bend to the switch. We're now set up in gauge of the Emporium siding. This siding was previously used for helper addition during the Conrail and Norfolk Southern days, and most recently used for railcar storage before being placed out of service to all traffic. Moving south, we're set up at the southward entrance of the truss bridge over the Salamanca Creek. The vegetation growth here is the most I've seen it along the line so far. With the off and on cloud cover, the exposure here wasn't the most perfect, but I thought this location was a must add into this video. Following the Salamanca Creek, the railroad then sweeps through the small borough of Sterling Run, Pennsylvania. The small area was once a major timber producer and is now hosted in an annual rattlesnake hunt based out of Driftwood. While visiting the area the Sunday prior, we found the crossing jammed full of dirt due to the long time without rail traffic. After waiting almost an hour for the Norfolk Southern dispatcher, our train was given a Norfolk Southern symbol of WNYP 5 before continuing on to Norfolk Southern controlled trackage. Here, the train is once again crossing the Salamanca Creek as they enter the limits to Driftwood. The siding I'm standing on is now used for car storage by Norfolk Southern. This portion of the Buffalo line was still home to air-controlled turnouts. The way this works is the on-site air compressor would supply air to the metal pipes along the railroad, and when the dispatcher ordered a switch to be thrown, the pressurized air was used to throw the switch anonymously. This was the early version of today's electronically motorized control points. To the left of your screen is the connection to the Buffalo and Pittsburgh line to Du Bois. The line was used by the Pittsburgh and Shawmut prior to the Buffalo and Pittsburgh takeover in 1988. It was originally the Pennsylvania Railroad's low-grade secondary to Brookville. After arriving at South Driftwood, the crew was instructed by the Norfolk Southern dispatcher to leave the FRA coaches on the siding for a Lock Haven crew to pick up the next day. The WNYP locomotives would then head back north to Olean Light Power after a brief crew swap at Keating Summit. With a 10-hour drive back to North Carolina ahead of us, we wouldn't be able to chase the Light Power back north. After talking to some locals, we hit the back roads and headed south, where we would arrive home shortly before midnight. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.